Okay, we're live. Now I'm gonna be checking this out. So let's give it a couple minutes.
Yep. Can you hear me all right?
Hold on for a second. Sometimes there's about a 10-second delay from shooting to the internet back to something like this.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like I think there's like a wedding here today.
There's a what?
I think there's a wedding here today. Oh, yeah.
Cool, still pretty lame.
Yeah. All right, let's do sound check. Sound check.
All right, how do I sound? Can you hear my voice loud and clear? I'm gonna have to boom it up a little bit.
A little more. Why don't you sing us your favorite song?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear James. Happy birthday to you. Sound good? Coming through?
We're good to go. Nice. All right, all right. Let me just switch this camera real quick before we get started so I can talk to everybody. Okay, we're good to go. Welcome to the Howard Experience Show. Coming to you straight from an undisclosed location in the international island of Guam. We're here today with Mr. Dave Pexa, who was there a little bit earlier while we're doing the sound check. We're going to talk to him today and ask him about all the great things that he's doing to impact himself as well as impact the world. I think you'll really enjoy the conversation. We know each other from the past. That's why we're here sitting today, and we're going to talk story like we usually do on the Howard Experience Show. This is session number 15, again coming to you live from Guam, USA, and thank you for tuning in, and hope everybody's good out there. I know it's a little bit rainy here in Guam today, but we're secure in this nice location where we're at, and share the stream, man. Get a drink, call some friends, press that little share button and get it out, because you're going to be in for a treat. I guess the best way to describe Dave Pexa, he's one in a million. And you're going to see that today. And he's going to let us know what the deal is. Once again, you're at the Howard Experience Show. Let's do this, folks. Here we go.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on.
Hold on. Let me just refocus it. Let me refocus it. There we go.
Cool.
All right, Dave. You're live, man. We're on point. Let's do this.
So I don't know where to start, man. I guess
You start anywhere you want.
I'll tell people a little bit about myself. I grew up here, born and raised on Guam, and growing up here, being a white kid, going to public school, sometimes I had a hard time trying to figure out my identity, like who I was. I really felt local, but sometimes I was ostracized or shunned by the local kids because I was white. But I really feel like I felt it fit in with the white kids that were military because I wasn't military. And you know, my sister was a elite swimmer, and so sometimes I was like, who am I? Where do I belong? You know, my sister's brother. And so early in my life, you know, I recognized that, you know, I wasn't the happiest person in the world, and I felt like I just had more to offer. I was kind of suppressed. And so I embarked on a journey. I was like, you know, if I can become anybody I want to become, like, how do I do that? So I got into personal growth and development. You know,
Okay.
I recognized that. I mean, it might sound like a extreme concept, but you know, if you want to become a basketball player, ideally, you know, you can talk to Uncle Pete who played varsity in high school,
Yeah.
and get some pointers about how to be a great basketball player. Or you can go and study what Michael Jordan does and get his perspective on what it takes, not just on the basketball court, but day in and day out, your diet, your lifestyle, your regimen.
Fundamentals.
And so, you know, I was like, you know, I want to see what I can do. You know, so I went to college. I was interested in psychology, but I felt psychology was too sterile, too much. I'm the expert over here. You know, you're the client. Let me tell you what I see in my book, right? And then I considered the realm of the theater, right, where somebody sits down and intentionally writes language, and through that language, you got to figure out who people are, what their relationships are, and what the words mean. And so I use that to kind of study people, study language, study body language, get command of my own voice, my own posture, my own body language. And after college, I was still like, man, I don't feel like I'm myself. You know, what's going on? So I came back home for a couple years, and then I moved to Washington. And when I was out in Washington, I was like, I'm going to take every personal growth and development program that comes my way. You know, Landmark Education, Tony Robbins, Peak Potentials. I discovered the men's movement. You know, there's a whole movement that kind of started when the internet came. Guys trying to figure out how to be successful with women and dating. And there was one guy in particular who I really admired because his whole approach was, you know, shape yourself, build your own character, have an amazing life, and then all that other stuff kind of starts to happen on its own. And you know, so I really stuck with him for quite a few years. And so I got to the point where I was a little bit happier. Went and joined the Navy for 6 years, and that was another personal growth and personal growth and development experience because you know you're faced with a harsh environment every day. It's kind of hostile. You know, there's no fuzzy warm feelings.
Yeah.
It's like how do you show up every day and still be in a good mood and be strong and not let it like crush you? And so I did that for 6 years, and then came back home a couple years later, and I was wondering like, what am I going to do with all this? I have all this experience in personal growth and development. I've turned over all these stones and found a lot of good stuff to understand what is it to be a man. And you know, I've come to the point where my goal is I want to understand what it means to be a whole and complete, timeless, universal, mature masculine man.
Nice.
And I don't even know exactly what that means, right? But that's a big box to grow into.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think it transcends and goes a lot further than, you know, I want to be the Fortune 500 man of the year, all that kind of stuff, which that's cool, but how does that really impact other people? And I feel like by taking on that huge challenge, it gives me a lot, you know, there's so much to learn. Like what is that kind of man's, you know, diet gonna be? You know what I mean? What's a timeless diet that sustains us, but what also is cutting edge? You know, what are the thoughts? You know what I mean? Like to think about, you know, again, thinking about basketball a certain way is gonna make you a different kind of player.
Yeah.
So what are the thoughts of men who are consistently successful? And I think the three primary areas are health, wealth, and relationships, right? So it's like really digging deep and asking, you know, and there's a lot of bad advice out there, I tell you what, you know what I mean? Because so many guys, you ask them about relationships and like, bro, it's just a chick, go talk to her.
Bro.
Right? And it's like, and there's a lot of counterintuitive stuff about, you know, human relations that we might not understand. And so just trying to find out, you know, what is available, and so health and wealth and relationship. And so now I'm at UOG getting a counseling degree. I got a Facebook page that I'm terrible with, but it's the GUAM Men's Academy. And I just try to, you know, send out a stream of positive things and things to think about as far as like, you know, who do you want to be in the world? Do you want to be somebody who's intentional in creating your life? Or do you want want to be a victim of life, right? Because both are available, but so much of it lives in who you think you are,
Yeah.
and what you're willing to do. So that's where I'm at with my life today, and I love being back home on Guam. You know, like the weather's great, the lifestyle's great. You can do anything, and also there's not a lot of extra distractions. You know what I mean? It's not you're not keeping up.
You sure can't road trip anymore.
No, you can't. No, you can't. You can't sail the road though.
Oh yeah.
I've never done that.
You can take a
I know
boat
you can
there.
do it. Yeah, take a boat.
Excellent, excellent.
So that's where I'm at, man.
Wow. So this this site that you have with are these messages you're sending out by random, or is it by like, hey, you know what, today I'm gonna push positivity, or today I'm gonna push motivation? Is there a structure to it?
Man, that would suggest I'm far more organized than I actually am.
Mm-hmm.
So no, it's just kind of you know, when I see stuff on Facebook, I'm like, hey, this is a good thing. Like, I wish somebody was, you know, had that idea, shared that idea with me at some point.
So you're kind of peddling the.
I'm passing it on.
Okay.
You know, I'm making no claim to be some super original entity
Yeah.
on that page.
Yeah.
I pass a lot of that on, and it's been good. Like checking out like what's going on in politics, the election, and what's going on with our community.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think there's a lot that I think there's a lot going on that we're not quite aware of that needs to be addressed, and I like to see some of that happening.
Happening through advocacy or through yourself?
You know, I kind of think of myself as a passive activist, right? I'm busy doing my own thing, and I feel like it's important to try and live by example, lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to build myself up so I can actually live by example.
Okay.
And you know, I see like our drug problems and our substance abuse problems and
Yes.
stuff like that. I think a lot of it comes down to disempowered identity, right? So much that was taken away, like starting with the Spanish arrival. Like, you can't go fishing past the reef. You can't take canoes past the reef. Like, you can't speak the language, all that kind of stuff. So I think deep down in the core of our culture, it starts with that, but I think a lot of that was compounded with the wartime, right? And I think a lot of people don't recognize that, although that was 70 years ago, you know, the war traumatized a lot of people, and those people raised people,
Yeah.
and those people raised people. So if you have a whole community of people that are suffering from unresolved post-traumatic stress disorder and other complications, you know, there's going to be generations of people that, you know, don't necessarily know how to believe in themselves or feel good about themselves or successfully deal with their sadness, right? And there was some brutal stuff that happened in the war, and I think that leads to the substance abuse problems, you know, the drug problems, the alcohol problems, even overeating, I think is inviting a physical change of how we feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, I see, you know, I'm listening to the news and stuff, and I see a lot of press to push with like crack down on crime and stuff like that. And yeah, some of that needs to be in place too, but have a little compassion for understanding what, you know, the people of this culture have gone through. I think it start looking at it from that perspective. Now we have a little more avenue for taking action, really helping people out.
How about Micronesians?
What about that?
This whole debacle of the Pacific Islanders, you know, the stigmata that these people are coming from, you know, they're at the end of the day they're our brothers and sisters because we're all from islands.
Yeah.
But they're actually coming onto our soil, so to speak, through compact impact, using benefits, causing havoc. You know, you just talked about recently.
Right.
All those viral videos that went out with all these, you know, basically it's a no holds, anything goes.
Right.
That would be the perspective if you look at it from I'm just eating what the media is giving me.
Right.
But somebody like myself, when I watch these things, I'm like, you know, one is I know it's just not the Micronesians that are doing this kind of stuff.
Right.
It's everybody. It's everybody.
Right.
So why focus on one culture versus, like you said, the root may not be the crime. The root's obviously drugs that tie into all the different emotional things that have happened in their life through generations. That basically led to basically these ideas being indoctrinated
Right.
through the years.
Yeah.
And now you have this clash. I just wanted to throw that at you, see what you think about it.
See, I think there's something. This might be controversial just a little bit, but it's funny because Guam is Micronesian.
Yeah, exactly. We
Right?
are.
So there's already like a conflict in identity, right? An unwillingness to recognize that, right? We're trying to create ourselves as other. And I've been thinking about this lately. I think part of the trouble that we have is like the Spanish still run things here, right? The Spanish are still in control. And maybe the bloodline is different, but Spanish ideology. When's the last time you went to like a traditional Chamorro wedding ceremony?
Traditional?
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
You know what I mean? Does it exist?
Does it exist?
What about a burial ceremony or like an end of life ceremony?
I've only been to a Micronesian end of life ceremony. That was very traditional.
And
But
so
yeah.
I think part of the issue with pointing the finger at like Micronesians for being part of the culture goes back to when the Spanish made Chamorro people wrong, right? It's a mindset and an ideology that is perpetuated inside of institution, right? Very covertly, and because we want to be a part of the institution because that's where it's at, money-wise.
Exactly.
We embrace that, and we don't want to fight that because there were consequences to disagreeing with Spanish ideology. Your head was cut off.
Off with your head.
You were murdered.
Yep.
And so I think there's a conflict within an identity that facilitates some of these problems. I think too. So I think the answer is. I'm not saying that we banish people, right? I think the trick here though is to integrate, right? And I think it requires becoming aware of what works and what doesn't work, right? And really looking at how do we come with these rituals for maturity, right? Where do these rituals come from? Where do these ceremonies come from? Who does it benefit, right? Who's empowered by practicing these rituals? You know what I mean? Like, and then asking ourselves like, how can we empower our local culture with new rituals? One of them I was thinking about was like we have the practice of fiesta every month, which is built around a patron saint.
Yeah.
Right. That's a Spanish thing.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, in terms of like a timeless and universal practice, I would imagine in an island community, those kind of gatherings where communities come together would probably be centered around what fish is in season. You know what I mean? Like I would love to go to a fiesta and see a marlin head and a marlin open up on a table, right?
Yeah.
I would love to see that. That'd be great. But instead we got pigs. You know what I mean? And I love pig. It tastes good.
Yeah.
But I think that would be a reflection of we are in harmony with our nature.
Who we are.
Yeah.
As
who we are.
islanders.
And getting back into the ocean. And I almost think that in some respects, being a great swimmer would be like an act of revolution. You know what I mean? In an island community, like how many adults can confidently swim outside of the reef?
Not a lot.
Right?
Yeah.
And I get it. It takes work and practice and stuff like that. But I think traditionally that was a source of our strength. Like swimming is probably as taxing as wrestling. You know what I mean? And when you read the stories, traditional ancient Chamorro people were big, strong people.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that had to do with their relationship with the ocean, with the water. In the Maasai tribe in Africa, they are surrounded by lions. For a boy to become a man, he has to go kill a lion with his spear. And it's not about killing a lion. It's about facing your fears in the best interest of the village, of the tribe.
Yeah.
So I think about, we're talking about the men and problems and Micronesian men. I think that being an island community, a lot of those rituals for facilitating boys becoming men in particular happen in the water. So when that was taken away from the culture, a lot of the rites of passage, which teach boys to respect elders, right? Respect the knowledge of elders because they understand how sharks truly behave.
Yeah.
Right? The value of trusting your team, right? Knowing that, hey, this guy's got to get my back because if this marlin I got on the hook or whatever takes off, I need that guy. And, sharing with other people and being patient and understanding cycles of change and growth and development. So I think if we want to start fixing things in our community, we gotta start looking at that. Like, who are we? Like, what do we represent? What do we stand for? And integrating, like, the Spanish brought some good stuff here. Like, let's integrate that, but let's also reclaim. And I see it. There's a lot of people. I think it's great that there's more and more movement for retaining the language and stuff like that, and the culture. We have to sustain that, but we also have to integrate. I think we're a global community, right?
Yeah.
We're part of a global community, and I think Guam is very unique in that it's multicultural just by nature. Like, we have everything, and we can't just try and push that away and just go back to the past. It's about integrating, and I think it starts with understanding our own identity as far as like when and how we set boundaries, what's okay, what's not okay, how to deal with anger, how to deal with sadness, how to deal with loss. I think that's missing too, is how to deal with anger, sadness, and loss. And that contributes to a lot of our problems.
Because I think a lot of that, what you're speaking about, is the role of the family at home. That's something you don't really, you're going to school and they're like, hey, everybody, let's start talking about our feelings, and that's I think the way our Western society's set up.
Yeah.
It's not a part of it, which could be a mistake on our end, that we should integrate some of those practices to teach people, because, well, like you said, what happens when people get sad or suicidal or they feel depressed? There's a couple of things that are going to happen. They're going to turn to substance, or they're going to get angry, and they're going to take it out on somebody else, plain and simple.
I think the most accurate thing I've ever heard about trying to understand human beings is understand that emotions run the show, and then we backwards rationalize using logic. And so when we're talking about our feelings, I'm not necessarily talking about all fuzzy-dovey, lovey-wovey, you know what I mean? I'm talking about, like, being honest, being emotionally honest, be like, I'm angry.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sad. And anger is an interesting one, and I think as men, we're discouraged from sharing how we feel. Like, if we're angry, if we're sad, whatever, because it's not masculine, it's not manly, it's not Navy SEAL, kicking ass and blowing shit up, right? And I think
I don't hurt.
I think it's unfortunate because we get a lot of those. We've gotten a lot of those. Like, that's one of the things with the Western influence.
Come on, you see it every day.
We've gotten a lot of the Clint Eastwood cowboy, the archetype of the American cowboy, right? Don't show your feelings, just be tough. But the truth is, if you don't, you're gonna have to find a way to deal with it. And alcohol, drugs,
Abuse.
Violence.
Yeah.
It's gonna come out one way or another. So this is the interesting thing, and I think it's really important. Men think you're not emotional, but we are emotional. It's anger, right? Like, because it's angry, it's manly,
It's good.
right? It's not sensitive feelings.
We are good.
Yeah. And this is the thing about anger. Anger can be a very powerful, useful emotion. And I got this from Dr. Paul Dobransky. His program is called Mind OS, Mind Operating System. And he talked about anger, where there's three ways anger can go. If it goes inward, anger turned inward leads to depression. Right? Anger and sadness are two sides of the same coin. And oftentimes we're angry, we act angry because we don't want to feel the sadness. Like, we get angry because we don't want to face the sadness of our girlfriend leaving us and the loneliness, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one way. Anger turned inward is depression. And then The other way is destructive, right? Just beat the shit out of someone, or do something just damaging. Or there's constructive, where you use your anger to say, no, enough is enough. This is my boundary. Don't cross it, right? And then explain yourself. But it takes a lot of practice, and because people often think being assertive comes with aggression, right? And so a lot of times people are afraid of anger, so they're like, don't voice your anger. And this guy recommends it. He says it's far better to voice your anger, be destructive, fix it, and then practice being constructive with your anger than it is to stuff it, right? And I think as a community, we stuff a lot of anger. We pretend we're not angry, and then again, that's where the substance abuse comes into, because we want to change the way we feel. And I think that's a practice in Micronesia, all over the place, but particularly in Micronesia, where you have all these I think we see quite a bit of it on Guam. We see quite a bit even in Hawaii and with Native Americans, where you have these people whose culture's been uprooted and overtaken, and there's a sense of powerlessness. Like, it doesn't matter what I do. Like, these guys run the show anyway.
Yeah.
They don't care what we have to say. Some people have gone beyond that and they've figured out how to integrate. But I think there's also a core that's what they're dealing with, and they're not aware of dealing with. So definitely like processing some of the anger and being open with it. And when a lot of guys are like, oh, if you show your feelings, you're weak, I would disagree. I think it takes a lot of strength to be like, no, I'm actually going to tell you what I think and how it's impacting me, because I don't want it to lead to depression and all that kind of stuff. So recognizing that there's courage, and that's actually the way to process some of these, is to practice courage. And to me, that's more masculine, that's more manly, when you can practice courage, and people that want to put you down, I think they're just living in fear. And to me, that's not honorable, noble, or heroic at all. So
for anyone.
Yeah, so I think if we start thinking about that as a community and who we want to be as men, I think things will start changing around here, and just for the sake of what example do we want to set for our kids?
Yeah. Well, I like the point that you bring up with Native Americans, Islanders, because we this is the environment we've grown up in.
Yeah.
And I think one of the, I don't know if you want to call it a cultural mindset, but there's always it's wrong, but I'm not going to say anything.
Right.
And I think that builds to some of the things you're talking about, some of our weaknesses as people.
Yeah.
And definitely the only way around these things or to challenge yourself and get through it is you get mentorship.
Yeah.
You do your own studies, obviously trial and error. But again, if you're watching this right now, the key word that Dave said was courage. And it's not easy to make these decisions in life sometimes when you're faced against Mount Everest.
Yeah.
And you're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched the movie Everest?
No.
You have never seen it?
Uh-uh.
Great. Josh Brolin's in it. It's a great story of basically the best way I could describe it is not giving up, but also there's a reality to life. And sometimes the reality is you're going to do what you love, but you're also going to die while you do it. But the point is not death. The point is you went to where you made the choice to go to where you wanted to go. Yeah. Even though the risk was high, even though the probability of success was like, you're not getting out of this, you still didn't give up because that's what you wanted. And that's kind of the story when they talk about Everest. It was a true story. I believe on that particular trip in 1997, out of the 40 climbers that hit Everest, half of that group died.
Yeah. Because
all these different complications that happened, as well as some people made decisions to cover their own ass.
Yeah.
And they were like, I'm not giving you my oxygen. No way. And I think the way to look at it through the regular person is everybody has their own Everest.
Yeah.
And whether you believe that or not, it's there. And if you try to go, no, the Everest is, it's not for me, then that's where you're fooling yourself, and you're going to be left behind as far as the things that you could have done, or the things that you could have shown others.
Yeah, and again, it's not about conquering Everest; it's about conquering yourself.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Facing your fears, being willing to stand for something, and it's far more noble to be in the game and lose than sit on the sidelines and criticize, troll.
Yeah. I would have done it like this if that was me.
You didn't, mofo.
Yeah, you did. Excellent.
Yeah, so that's what I love, man. I really love personal growth and development. I think we get robbed. I think a lot of times if we put our happiness in other people's hands, they're gonna drop it. And you gotta understand, we're trusting. There's a lot of great teachers out there in the schools, and we're trusting teachers to prepare us, but. Does the institution and the school system really want us to be that powerful?
Is that what it's created to do?
Right. I don't know that it is.
You know it's not.
It's not.
I know it's not.
It's not.
Come on.
It's not. And I think if people start looking at that, I think there are ways to get through school. You know what I mean? Like if you're the way I see it, like I think school systems are kind of outdated. Right? It used to be that schools were the source of information, right? It was a collection point for intellectuals and information, and you had to go to school to get that information. That's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
You don't need school per se, and I'm not saying drop out of school, kids, because education is important. But figure out what you're passionate about. Like, what's your purpose in life? What is your purpose in life? What are you willing to use your life to? How do you want to impact the world with your life? You figure out what your purpose is, and then it's easy to go to school. Because now you can challenge your teachers and be like, well, what about this? What about this? I need to know about this. Where do I find out more information about this? You can get on the internet and figure out your stuff, and then talk to your teachers about, well, how do I, now you can use your teachers as a resource, because a lot of them are smart, and they know a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting for them to dictate to you what you think you gotta know. But I think, again, it goes back to, if you spoke up, or you were an original, or you spoke out, there were consequences. You just submit to power and authority, and that's the way it was for a long time.
Oh, Jimmy's raising his hand again.
Yeah.
He's the smart ass.
Yeah. But you can get through school and get it done, and don't count on your teachers, because some of these guys are just collecting their paycheck.
How long have you been going to school?
Man, 40 years.
40 years?
Yeah.
So out of the 40 years, how many teachers?
5, 7, maybe.
5, 7
5 or 7.
that you really like. Wow.
Yeah.
They really
Personality
impacted.
point,
They've
got
impacted.
passion, and they know what they're talking about. Yeah.
Wow. 40 years and only 7.
I'm always in school, man. I can't tell you, like, I have so much education that's undocumented. Because I just buy DVD series. Right? Like the Mind OS, that was a $500 program, man.
You just download it?
Yeah. And I got a bunch of other stuff. There's a guy, Wyatt Woodsmall, who's a neuro-linguistic programming master trainer. A neuro-linguistic program is kind of looking at your relationship to like language and your neurology, like how you respond to it. And it's looking at context and frames of reference. Yeah. And that's where a lot of meaning happens in communication with people. So that guy, he's like Yoda, man. Like, he's got the best stuff on like leadership.
You ever heard of NeuroNet?
No.
So NeuroNet is a new technology coming out. I follow a lot of Elon Musk things.
Okay, yeah.
And obviously some of the talk within the last 5 years is artificial intelligence and how it's going to be beneficial in some respects. In other respects, it's like, hey, once you open that box, there's no controlling this monster. It will take over. So these are some of the things that engineers and scientists, they know. But at the end of the day, they're just like, fuck it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
He's not like that. According to the interviews that I've previewed, different sources, And what I like is he understands this concept, and he's been trying to advocate for many, many years. Like, hey guys, slow down. Because once the artificial intelligence gets out of the box, you kind of go, oh shit, time to bring it back. It's already done. It's a done deal.
Right.
So his counter for the human race is he's creating what's called a neural net. So one of the issues, and it's great that you brought it up with your 40 years education, and it might discourage you in a little bit, but his actual theory is every human on the earth has the same ability to absorb information.
Yeah.
It's just some absorb it in different ways. The process is different. Some are able, like for instance Einstein. You don't even need to talk about it. He's the genius. And there's other people with mental disabilities, these type of things. And he calls it a bandwidth issue, meaning we should be at 5G, but we're still at 56K. So to counter the artificial intelligence, they're creating this technology called a neural net that's actually going to integrate with your cranium.
It's crazy, dude.
Very, very, how do you say it? Invasive surgery. It's going to be connecting some connector. This is about within the next 10 years.
Wow.
This is going to happen.
Yeah.
And basically what's going to happen is you're going to be able to go, I want to know what David Pexa did for 40 years. Download, boom.
Damn.
It's there.
That's intense.
That is intense. And the other part of that conversation that really opened my eyes again about information specifically is we're all cyborgs already.
Yeah.
You understand that?
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know that while they're walking around, they're on their Facebook, they're on their Twitter. And the very perfect example that he brought up was, are you smarter with your smart device? Yes or no?
I don't think so. I mean, in some respects,
In an information base,
right.
meaning at the palm of your hand, you can look up anything in the entire world.
Yeah.
Right now. 20 years ago, you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
You have more power today with just this little device and some other things that you have that are changing the dynamic of humanity. And how that also, I think, integrates with, how we were talking about emotions, that's the other devil's advocate with these, is emotion starts to take a different road if you're too stuck with the technology, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And one of the good talks that came out was, everybody that has a social media page, it's all fucking hunky-dory.
Yeah.
I'm at a party. I got a new car. I got a balloon. Give me a like, give me a like, give me a like, give me a like, give me a like. Was that what the platform was designed to do when these people were putting it together? Who knows? I don't know. I'm not the guy that did that.
Yeah.
But what I do know is if you don't understand how this could be a double-edged sword, you could actually get sucked into this alternate universe that you create yourself.
Right. Yeah, I see that. I think about that kind of stuff. Like, information is like food, right? If you eat junk food, you're gonna have junk health, right? But if you think about what you're putting into your mind or into your body, you can eat food that will nourish you. You were talking about like major breakthroughs in technology, and Ray Kurzweil, he's in charge of like Google's artificial intelligence. I watched a thing called The Singularity, and he was theorizing. This was like almost 10 years ago.
The singularity.
And he was talking about, he was looking at emergent technology, and he was theorizing that by, I think, 2030, our life expectancy would jump to the same kind of scale as how communication expanded with the arrival of the internet.
Wow.
Like, he thinks shortly we're going to be able to live healthy to 150. because we can take nanobots, nanotechnology, put it in there, clean plaque out of our arteries, and program things to just go in there and do things. We can, you're seeing it with stem cells and growing.
Do you even need the biological body anymore, though? Once you get to that point.
That's crazy.
Because as a human, we all like our little things, so to speak. And let's say we evolve to a certain level, and we're not going to be so. The ownership of our bodies isn't going to be as much as it was 50 years ago, especially when you can open up a menu and go, "Hey, you want a new arm? Because I'm going to be playing baseball with Dave. I'm going to be swimming with Dave next week, and a little more torque in the water."
Man, it'd be crazy.
Crazy, or is that like way crazy? Or you think that's coming down the pipe? I personally think it's going to happen. I personally think at some point in evolution, in our speed, it probably won't be in our lifetime, obviously, but there's going to come a point where we're going to look at flesh and we're going to be like, why even deal with the flesh when we can make it better?
Right.
And be, unobtainium bodies. My energy source is a crystal. The only thing that really matters is the information that you have from your life, which doesn't need this.
Right.
It's all neurons and stuff like that.
It's very matrix.
Very matrix.
I try not to get too far ahead of myself, man, like thinking about the future. Because I start getting anxiety about that, man. The weird life, you know what I mean? Like, at what point are we human anymore?
Yeah.
We're talking about bandwidth and our ability to download information. I think, when emotions go up, intelligence goes down. Because the way our brain is set up, we got the triune brain theory, you got the reptile brain that governs all your involuntary responses, your breathing and all of that, your fight, flight, freeze, rest, relax, and read. And then you got the mammal brain, which kind of governs the limbic system and social networks and stuff like that, and connection. And then you have the neocortex, the logical linear thinking. So, but when we get, you notice how like if something dramatic happens, then we're flooded with emotions, and if there are gunshots, all thinking would stop and we just start taking action, right? And so if people I think as far as learning and stuff like that, people need to be aware of what is their emotional state. You know what I mean? Like, some kids don't perform in school because they're dealing with trauma from home, right? They're in a heightened state of alert. We want to medicate it and say ADD or whatever, but if they're hyper vigilant, hyper stimulated because they kind of come from a unsafe environment, it's going to impact their ability to learn.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at, I think that I'm pointing out another reason to try and integrate and resolve, resentments and fears and angers and that kind of stuff, so that you can be more present in the moment. And I think talking about being cyborgs and stuff like that, I think one way humans are changing is that we don't need to memorize stuff anymore, right? And so I think there's going to be more right brain activity. Is going to be emotional intelligence. Is going to be that's a higher premium. Like, how to get people to work together, right? How to do all that. Like even now, you can get so many technical experts to do your technical job, but how do you get people to work together?
Yeah.
Right. That's a whole different skill set. And so I think I'm kind of on the other side of it, where I'm afraid to get sucked into the vortex that way. But I think there's going to be, and to keep up with that, again, I keep going back to schools. I almost think we need more group counseling type structures in school. That should be a class where kids get comfortable just speaking their truth, right? Rather than stuffing it and trying to lie to everybody about how good their life is, right? Really speaking their truth and helping them to really address things so they can self-care and manage and stuff like that, so they're prepared to go out and contribute to society.
How are you going to help do this, Dave? Because there's a I'm gonna be frank with you. You have, like you said, the education that you have, meaning the different people you've spoken to, the different experiences you've had, life as well as academic. I'm not going to say that it's going to solve everybody's problems,
Right.
when do you start engaging them?
Yeah, I've started actually. Slowly, I got my website, which isn't very active, but part of it is part of it is getting qualified to work with people, and in a lot of senses, I feel like I'm qualified by experience to work with a lot of people, and so taking on clients, I'd actually like to see I've been encouraged by the evolving original music industry here. I like to push that a little bit more because I feel like being involved in that creative process, and I think our culture is heavily influenced by conformist mentalities. With the Spanish, and then even in the military culture that influences our society, it's a lot of conform and obey, right? Do your part. Don't be an original. Don't try to. And I think that stunts people's growth. So from a developmental standpoint, I would like to see that happen too. And I think there's an avenue where Berkeley College of Music has a great online music production program, and I think it'd be a great complementary industry, right? So what's happening? We got tourism, music. It doesn't require extra infrastructure, roads, buildings. So one, trying to lead by example. Right, but number two, trying to support and bring awareness and attention to how those ideas might actually help work with our problems here. But then, trying to work with people one-on-one, trying to work with people in groups, just trying to seed ideas in people's minds, so that they can do their part. Just trying to, my program now, I'm consistently bringing another perspective to things, right? Looking at how our biology informs how we, in particular men and women, informs how we communicate and how we go about the world. And just bringing that and trying to inspire that kind of thought, and inspire people to say, hey, how you live your life does make a difference, right? I challenge you. Are you really putting in the effort to be the best you can be?
Yeah.
Or are you cutting corners?
Yeah.
Why are you cutting corners? What's the impact of cutting corners? And nobody's perfect. And but I think being in the intention and being engaged in that process, that's how to get people engaged. And eventually, we all have to face our limitations. Something, if we don't, life's gonna tell us it's time, right? So
yeah.
I encourage people to be proactive in the process of engaging limitations and figuring out who do we want to be. How do we become this way? Another good example, we talk about, a lot of people don't understand how conditioning makes us who we are. But if somebody's raised in a family saying, grandma's always saying, boy, rich people are greedy and rich people are evil, that kid has very little chance of being wealthy, right? Because he doesn't want to lose grandma's love and appreciation and validation and acceptance. So that kid's at a disadvantage. He has this limiting belief, because if he goes out and pursues wealth, grandma's gonna be like, what's wrong with you, boy, you're greedy, right? But if you can start looking at things like wealth and having money and being rich is a way to help people, now that's a powerful paradigm. That's a powerful mindset about approaching wealth and success and happiness. And you can even help grandma, make sure she gets good medical care. That's a good reason to be wealthy.
Yeah.
And so when people start looking at asking themselves, well, what are my limiting beliefs, and where did I learn that, and is it still useful? You know what I mean? Sure, grandma said money's the root of all evil, but she was unhappy too. You know what I mean? She was poor her whole life, and she couldn't afford so maybe she couldn't afford medical care. So maybe it's time to give that up and try to find something new to replace it with. I think so.
Different perspective.
Yeah.
Versus, I guess, falling for it's a trap. That's what it sounds like.
Just accepting what you're given.
Yeah.
As soon as you're ejected from the uterus, this is your name. This is what being a good boy is. This is what being a bad boy is. This is the language we speak.
No, don't.
And so at what point do we start living our own life? Whose life are we living? We're conditioned. If we just accept that wholesale, whose life are we living? You know what I mean? So I think it's important to stop and be like, well, wait a minute, why do I do have these habits? a friend was telling me a story of he was at a holiday party and his wife always cut the sides off the ham before she baked it. And she goes, honey, why do you do that? He's like, I don't know, that's how my mom did it. Why don't you go ask her? She's in the kitchen. So he went and asked his mom. And he's like, Mom, why do you always cut the sides off the ham before you roast it? She's like, I don't know, that's always how we did it. That's how my mom did it. Why don't you go ask Grandma? Grandma, why do you always cut the sides off the ham? He's like, oh, because when I was growing up, that's how my mom did it. And our oven was too small, the ham wouldn't fit. So we cut the sides off so it would fit. So 3 generations later, like it's completely irrational, not logical, but there's practicing the same tradition. Wait a minute, maybe that tradition doesn't make sense anymore. We can just cook the whole ham.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's that invisible, and it's that we just accept it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if we don't stop and reflect and be like, and again, it goes. I think having a big vision of what's possible, like looking at what is it to be a whole and complete, timeless and universal, mature masculine man. That's a big framework. You know what I mean? You can do a lot of adjustments. There's a lot of room rather than having this narrow thing. And but really looking at, wait a minute, why do I value whatever it is, monster trucks or getting high or getting drunk on the weekends and in fact, I don't even drink. I gave it up several years ago because I was like, man, I'm not living the kind of life I want to live. I'm not making the kind of money I want to make. I'm not dating the kind of woman I want to date. And I started looking at the cost, not just the money cost, right? Because it costs money, but the time cost. You know what I mean? If I go out drinking, that's 6 hours, right? And then the next day, when I'm not feeling my best and waking up early, facing the day, I'm like, this is an opportunity cost. I could be focusing on what's going to get me to where I want to be and investing my time and my energy into that, or I could about doing that. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing inherently wrong with drinking, and there's a lot of good time, but I think a lot of people do it because they don't know what else to do, right? And all my friends drink, so that's why I drink.
Just like the ham.
Yeah, that's what all my uncles do.
And why are we drinking at 6 o'clock in the morning? Because it's Saturday. We always drink at 6 o'clock in the morning.
This is what we do for fun. It's our tradition.
It's a tradition.
Okay. Yeah, in fact, I think a lot of our drinking tradition probably came post-war. GIs are like, yeah, this is how you party.
Welcome to America.
This is what being a man's all about, freedom, right? And so that becomes so much of how we celebrate and how we go about doing things. And I don't know that it serves us per se.
I think moderation could be the key for most people because it's out there, and some people do enjoy a little bit of whiskey now and then to get the edge off. I got no problem with that, but like in my own career back in the day, taking 4 shots at 151, bad.
Yeah.
Why did I do it? Because at the particular time I was doing it, I didn't know what I was doing.
Let me ask you this. How many shots of 151 were your bosses taking when they were making all the money?
Yeah. Zero.
Zero. The guy that used to own Marty's, that Mexican place?
Yeah.
I forgot his name. He had the long blonde hair.
Phil.
That guy never drank. And he owned like 4 bars.
Never
drank.
Actually, he drank one time.
Oh, yeah?
I remember one time. But as far as a social drink or anything like that, anywhere we would go, because I used to work for him.
Okay.
Way back. I'm a Marty's for life, man, right here.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody out there in the internet world, Marty's. Phil Martineau, Kim Aiken, yeah. Anyways. You said it yourself. But he would also orchestrate the happenings, meaning he knew what we were going to do when we closed the restaurant.
Yeah.
But guess what? That was our little perk, so we could stay loyal to the brand, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that's, in my career, that's just compounded from a small-time business, and it folded into a multi-million-dollar business. Same mentality. The guy at the top's like, let's just keep the natives a little bit happy and throw them some little treats.
Yeah.
And guess what? He's gonna take $10. I'm gonna get $100,000 in return.
Yeah.
Is that a good investment?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to go to Vegas, James? Sure, go right ahead. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
And those are business tactics in any restaurant, Walmart, hotel, and people will follow.
Yeah.
especially if you're that guy.
And they think they're living the life.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
man, we get free alcohol. Well, he got $100,000. Yeah,
There you
the
go.
alcohol's not worth it.
Exactly. And I guess at that
Wholesale too.
Yeah.
He's getting that wholesale.
And I think at that point of your life, when you're in those type of situations, that's what pushed me to take on the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
I mean, as I was telling you earlier, a lot of the fear and choices that I'm making, there's no obligation, because guess what? The buck stops here.
Yeah.
And if I could have done that, this is not a what if, but if there was somebody like yourself that was telling me this 20 years ago, who knows what that picture may look like.
Yeah.
So, there's people watching this right now who are maybe in your situation, academic, most of their life, or an everyday working person, moms with multiple kids, all the different demographic that we talked about before we started. They're watching this and they're looking at somebody like yourself and they're going, how do I do this? Where do I start, Dave?
Start being honest with yourself. I mean, we all know we're lying to ourselves. And then I think we forget, right? The number one resource we have, right, the most important resource we have is time. How are you spending your time? Right? We can always get more money, right? Well, some people are like, oh no, I can't get more money. Yeah, you can. But time, basically, as men, we're given like 80 years. Women are given a little bit more. But time, that's all you get at this point until that breakthrough comes, right? So I think, number one, like, look at how you spend your time. And then what's your return on investment? And, is drinking until you're drunk every Sunday helping you live the life you want? Is it helping you become the man you've always dreamed to become? Is it helping you become the woman you've always dreamed to become? And then, there's other stuff that, video game maker, like, video games are fun. Like, none of this, nothing inherently wrong with them, like, all this stuff, but video game makers are getting rich off of you playing video games all day. What do you get out of it? And there is value. There is value. It's an escape, it's entertainment, it's something, but to a certain point. You know what I mean? And how much are you investing in yourself? How are you investing in yourself? And one of the reasons I value education so much and learning, nobody can ever take it away from you. Once you got your head straight, and you know what you're talking about, people can't ever take it away. You can always take away your clothes, your house, your car. You can lose all of that. All that material stuff, you can lose it. But you can't really go wrong if you're educating yourself. And maybe you became a parent before you wanted to. Okay, figure out how to be the best parent you can be, right? Talk to people about being a parent, not just your neighbors and stuff like that, but find out experts who study child development, and then compare notes between what mom and the neighbors are telling you with what experts are telling you, and try to reconcile it so that that's what you're good at, if that's what you're going to be good at. If you want to be here's another thing, if you want to be a pro athlete, being a professional doesn't start by getting paid. Being a professional is about how you approach your daily activities. Are you going to get up at 4 a.m. and go to the gym and shoot? Are you going to get with a personal trainer and train? Are you going to be reading up on nutrition? How are you preparing your body? Like, that's what a professional does.
Yeah.
And that's why they get paid for it. They get paid a lot of money. And and if you want to be a professional, maybe your first stop after, try and get into a college and play, but maybe your next stop is going to be the PBA, right? Still be a pro, go out and play basketball for a living. And then maybe your next stop's the Australian basketball league, right? And then maybe the NBA. But go as far as you can go. Learn about the journey. And then, if time comes up, then you come back and you start teaching people and helping them go farther in the journey. But there's a lot that goes into being a pro basketball player. You gotta learn how to analyze films. You gotta learn how to work out. You gotta learn all this stuff. And it can be done, but it all starts with mindset. Being a professional. And one of the things about GUAM is you have to cross-train, right? You play basketball, but in cross-country season, run cross-country too. Track season, run track too. And whatever else is available. But it's about your approach to anything.
Yeah.
And stop thinking like, aim for world class. You know, if you know the old saying like shoot for the moon, you might end up in the stars, right? Just go for it. Like make that your life's mission. Like never stop. Just because you didn't make it to the NBA doesn't mean you can't keep learning about basketball and teaching that and being an inspiration and being a leader. But don't let it stop you from pursuing it. I think a guy like John Tuck's a great role model. You know what I mean? He's a professional UFC fighter and he lives on Guam. But I don't see him in the clubs.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because he knows that's.
He's focused.
Yeah, he knows what he's about, and he does. I get the feeling he does it because he loves it. Like it's fun for him. Like fighting is fun, and training is fun, and living life is fun. I'm sure there's days where you're like, ugh.
That's key.
But yeah, he's pursuing his passion, and you can tell when you see him. Like he looks like he enjoys his life. And so I think that's a good role model. Things can be done on Guam. There's opportunity on Guam. My sister swam in the Olympics. You know what I mean? Opportunity. And there's a lot because of our unique political status and our location. You know, there's great opportunities. And you know, there's Rick Loss was a great judo fighter, fought in the Olympics, and judo is in Japan. There's training available and stuff like that. I think sometimes we sell ourselves short because we always think we got to go to the mainland to do stuff. But just in our backyard, there's
region.
people who are better than us. Yeah. People who are better than us that we can train with.
Nice.
Yeah, man, that's what's up.
So, I guess, you know, I'm that guy who's going to ask the next question about. So you've kind of given us pointers. You know, these are different options to pursue.
Options.
Choices. You know, here's the roadmap. Going to go left or right. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about is the youth today. I feel they are entitled a little further than like when I was their age. Mm-hmm. Meaning, this belongs to me, or this is my right, so I should have it without even lifting a finger to do anything about it. Mm-hmm. And my question is, if you have some of that insight, is how do we start steering the youth towards more of a thinker's mentality versus, you know, I just turned 18. Now I have to have this. I have to have this. This is entitled to me. And this is what's going to happen, whether you like it or not. That's just the way it is. I don't want to. There's a lot of social justice warriors in the States. You've heard of that term, right? And I've seen some of those viral videos on how some of these people react to things, and I think they're stuck in some of these areas that you're talking about, where they've had so much inside built up that they found a way to get with other people with that same type of feeling, emotion. But the end result is, you know, all the things we do doesn't work. Let's just turn to violence. Then they'll listen to us.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So I see that a lot in the major colleges in the United States. It's happening all the time. They've had professors that have worked there for decades. They're like, I'm out of here. I can't handle this anymore. Yeah. One of my concerns is that going to start happening in Guam? Because if you look at Guam and the stateside, before, without the internet, we were about 15 years behind. Now the internet is there, let's say, mentality-wise, about 3-5 years. And I think right now we're at the edge of this turning into something that could go out of control. Yeah. With some of the things you're talking about today and some of the people that are watching, you know, what's your insight?
So I think that
Or am I saying something that's totally crazy?
No, I think something to consider. I think Guam's a unique situation because we're a small, contained island,
Yeah.
right? I mean, people come and go aircrafts and stuff like that, but our culture is different than continental culture, right? If you do somebody wrong on a continent, you can be in a car and 300 miles away in, a day.
Yeah.
Here, what goes around comes around a lot quicker. Right?
Yeah.
So I think we're a little more open and we're receptive. I think too, if we get on this track where I think it's important to focus on social intelligence and emotional intelligence and bring that more of a focus in our culture and our community, I think we can be on the front end and actually leading the nation in something like that. It's funny, we talk about Guam is where America's day begins, but you're right, we're always like 3 to 5 years behind, right? But I think this is something where we can lead the nation. We're a multicultural environment. We have, if an idea catches fire, it spreads quick. You know what I mean? Like, people share information and people share and we're just so interconnected. Like, I think things can take off quick. And I think because we're so interconnected, the feelings of isolation and alienation that I think trigger some of these activities in the States, I think it doesn't happen as much. I think we are potentially moving into that direction as more and more local people move off island. But I think because we're integrated a little bit, kids don't get left behind like they do in a massive continent like mainland.
Yeah.
So I think we're insulated a little bit, but I don't think we should take it for granted, right? I think we need to do, and what I think it comes down to is alleviating the pressure, emotional pressure. Because if we're not attacking them, we're just saying you're a bad person. Well, okay, you're doing bad behaviors, but let's look at the context of how this person is conditioned to be that way. But if we can, and it always starts with ourselves. What are we doing to set an example? Like, what are we doing to healthily, in a healthy way, deal with our own negative emotions, our anger? What are we doing to get a hold of that so it doesn't run us? Right? Because if you can't control your anger, anger.
What do you do when you get angry?
What do I do when I get angry?
Yeah.
I voice it, man.
Nice.
It's funny, like, I'm kind of an asshole sometimes.
Okay.
I play water polo, and some of the guys, sometimes I get really angry.
Uh-oh.
Sometimes I just get verbally abusive. And, it's probably not healthy, but again, I'd rather voice it and get it out of my system and be like, all right, I'm good now, right? And shake it off and not take it personally.
Yeah.
But just voice it and get it, and let people know I'm angry. And, maybe sometimes I go too far, but I trust myself to rein it back in. And after I cool down, be like, you know what, I totally exploded. I was inappropriate. I do that when I get angry, but as long as you're not doing physical harm.
So you explain yourself afterwards in some situations.
In some situations I might.
Yeah.
Generally I don't. But, if I have to, I can clean it up. You can always clean it up. And I think as long as you're not, and again, I'm doing it with grown-ass men. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not getting verbally abusive with children.
Yeah.
But, and so,
Give me back my ball.
Sometimes I'm wrong, but sometimes it comes back to me. But I think express it, right? But without being attached to an outcome, right? Express it for the sake of expressing it. Like, I was having a conversation with my mom. She was talking about how, like, in nature, animals feel an emotion and they, like a deer might jump and just get it out of their system, right?
Yeah.
Like if they feel fear. But as humans, we try to hold it on because we gotta look cool. I don't worry about looking cool, man. I just lose my shit. And then I own it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I lost my shit. Don't be such an asshole. Right? That's your warning.
Hashtag truth, man. Nice.
If you come at me with some stupid shit, I'm gonna lose my shit on you because I'm not just gonna stuff it.
Yeah.
I know the consequences of anger turning inward. I've lived with depression, and I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna, you know what I mean? And normally it doesn't go that far, and I have enough foresight and awareness of how things are going. Like if I gotta get out of there or whatever, and just maybe tell them later. No, you don't have to address it now, but be like, somebody's a jerk. And then later they come wanting something, you're like, fuck you. You did this, this, and this. And like, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, fuck you, you're sorry, but okay. And then it's done, right? I voiced it, and then I'm over it. But a lot of it is really getting in the practice of letting it go. Let it go. Like, You know, accept people are people, right? We all feel it. Speak your truth, then let it go. You know, and at the end of the day, like, we're all just humans having a human experience.
Yeah.
And just getting into that ego trip, it's not useful. And like, you know, I'll bitch people out and then I help them out, right? Just because you do something I don't like doesn't mean I think you're a bad person.
Yeah.
And I think making that distinction is really important for dealing with people who rub you the wrong way, right? Somebody's behavior is different than who they are. And fundamentally, I think human beings are good people, right? And if you live in that truth that human beings are inherently good, then you can criticize the behavior without criticizing the person, and that usually helps to keep fences mended.
Then maybe that person's going to learn something as well at the same time.
Sometimes it's feedback.
Yeah.
You know, I try to tell people calmly first, but you know, after a while, just fuck it. You know, if you're not going to respond, then
Hey, buddy.
let me speak. You know, somebody told me even a dog responds to pain, right? So sometimes I use my words and my voice and my presence to inject a little bit of pain so that, you know, they know they've crossed the line. And if they want to keep crossing the line, then they can still feel it. Otherwise, you know, you get away from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I try to avoid people that are going to trigger me too much. I'm too old for that. You know what I mean? There's too much life. I got other stuff going on. I don't need
Other things.
other people's dramas.
Dave doesn't like me.
So,
Oh, well.
and that's one of those things, like, you don't like me, cool, I like me.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
That's what counts.
You know, it really does. I think if people in their hearts know that they're doing the right thing and they're operating with integrity, you know, if other people don't like them, a lot of times it's on them. You know what I mean? It's their issue. You might just remind them of the kid that picked on them in middle school and they don't know it, but it's a subconscious.
The trigger.
Yeah, subconscious trigger. And it's like, you know, I hope you like me, but if you don't, I'm okay because I like me.
Yeah.
And just go on with my day. And I think to some degree, it's a healthy perspective for people who are caught up in trying to get other people to like them. You know.
That's definitely something you have to as you develop. It's something that it's just not an instant, I got it.
Yeah.
Things are cool. You have those, you're gonna have trial and error, and you're gonna crash and burn. Other times you're gonna be like, you know, on top of the world. But I really like the fact that you're taking a lot of your experiences as Dave Pexa and your education, and you're delivering it today in a way where it's gonna help.
Hope so.
It's definitely gonna help, and that's kind of, you know, one of the other reasons why we do the show. Obviously, have fun, you know, talk story, have conversation. But for me personally, at the end of this show and any show that we do, if there's just one person that turns off the channel after they've tuned in, whether live or not, and they're like, you know what? Where's this guy's Facebook or email?
Yeah.
I need to take that step, because that's that step of courage
Yeah.
you were talking about a while ago.
Yeah.
That for somebody like myself and yourself and other people, is like, oh, that was easy.
Yeah.
But for that person to make that jump,
Yeah.
that might have been the biggest, you know, move of their life. So again, thank you for a lot of this great information that you're giving us today, because I'm definitely moved, and I think that
You get like goosebumps hearing you say that.
that's, I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah.
You know me. I'm not spreading butter. I'm not spreading butter here, man.
Yeah.
Because I do care about people. Obviously, you know, that's kind of what I do, and this is why I do what I do, because you know, I don't have an agent that's going, hey, make sure you put Dave Pexa on the show to make the ratings better.
Yeah.
It's like, some of it is design, other parts of this show is luck,
Yeah.
timing. How is it happening? What's being delivered? Because this conversation could have been something totally different. We could have been talking about, you know, V8s and hot rods, but we're not. We're talking about stuff that makes or breaks people, and it's a simple emotion that most people take for granted every day. When they wake up, they have the feeling, right? And they're like, okay, what am I going to do with this? I'm going to stay happy all day, Or on the flip side, oh, I don't feel too good. How am I going to deal with that?
Yeah.
Is there somebody I'm channeling that to? Is there something productive that I'm going to do? Is there something I'm going to change in my life? And I think a lot of people are understanding today. That's the message that you're sending, because that's kind of how I'm feeling.
Cool, man. Yeah, I really like helping people. I wish there was somebody who could really make sense to me when I was working through my issues. And a couple things I want to say is, if somebody's like, say one of the listeners is 25, don't expect instant results. You know, when it's time, it will be in a moment. But, you've been practicing being that person for 25 years. It's going to take a little bit of practice to course correct. So give yourself some time. And I had another thing, but I just brain farted it because I do that all the time.
Hey, no worries.
But, give yourself some time, and it takes practice. I want to work with people. You know what I mean? I want to, I don't bullshit. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I just give feedback, right? I try to give the best quality feedback because people are important.
I want to do a one-on-one with Dave. My name is Jose Cruz. How do I get in touch with Dave? How does this happen? How do we get in touch with what you do?
Okay, there's you can hit me up on Facebook if you just want to go to my personal account, David Pexa, Pexa. There's that. I also have GUAM Men's Academy. That's a Facebook thing. It's just something I use to put out like motivational things, things to think about. Just hopefully it gets into people's feed and they see something. It's like, man, that's inspirational.
Yeah.
And then I also have a website. That's David Pexa, first and last name.com. And there's some articles there. People want to read about a little bit of my mindset, some of the things I think about, some things that might be useful. Hit me up, and we can get together and talk, try and but it's kind of like, I tell people when they come in, seeing me is like seeing a nutritionist. We can work on, disease, or we can work on wellness, right? Anything in between. But at the end of the day, how you live your life or what you eat is going to affect the results. If you're not willing to do the work, then I'm only so effective.
Yeah.
And the more work you do, then we can really start having some high-level conversations and seeing the results. And I'm working with a couple of people right now, and they're getting good results, and I'm watching them like
Nice.
Their life is changing and transforming.
Is this a one-on-one deal?
I'm doing
Okay.
one-on-one
Okay.
right now, and I think if I get a few more people, I might start doing a couple groups.
Okay.
But because I think a lot can be learned from other people, and we just start practicing courage, speaking our truth, telling our story, admitting, hey, I'm not good at. I think, especially with young men, a lot of the trouble we see in violence and stuff like that is men don't know how to talk to women. You know what I mean? And sometimes just being like, I don't get it. And like instead of pretending and posing and getting on the internet and talking like a badass.
I'm a business owner. I have a large organization. I'm watching this. I'm going, this is the missing link to our company that we need. Is that something you do as well?
Yeah, I can. I think a lot of it comes down to, how people are interacting. Like, companies create a emotional climate, right? And, you've worked at some corporations where it doesn't matter, it's bottom line dollars, just do it and we don't care about it. But, I think Richard Branson said it. Train your people like they're going to leave, but treat them so they want to stay, right? And it's really about thinking about the human component and what are your policies and how can you find the little adjustments to help people feel like they're valued and they're heard and they're acknowledged so that they're not just a cog in a mindless cog in a wheel and just dead. Because we all want purpose. We all want to feel like our lives are contributing to something. And I think the companies that really do it well are dialed into that. And so the people feel like they're part of something when they're showing up for work. It's not just about making somebody else rich and getting some money. So some of it is incumbent on the employee to look at, hey, what's your purpose in life and how does working here fulfill on that, right? Employees got to take some responsibility. But I think too, if owners can have that conversation, then they can start hiring better people, right? And then also converting the ones that are kind of on the fence and disengaged with being like, okay, well, while you're working with me, I'm going to hold you accountable for what you said your vision of your life is. And I think people respond to that. People respond to that. So yeah, I definitely like working with that.
Big, small, intimate,
Yeah,
all there.
it all comes to the human component, the human element.
Are you a one-man show? Or are there other compartments to your
At this point, yes.
mission?
At this point, yes, I'm a one-man show, but you know, I'm meeting a lot of great people in my counseling program. You know, like I said, I'm not trying to hold on and be the source. Like, I want other people to have the information I have and have the resources I have, and you know, I'll share as much as people are willing to take in.
Yeah.
And I'm working with a couple people, and it's not just about solving their immediate problems, but helping them to be role models in the community. And you know, be those people who are willing to speak up and be like,
Wow.
yeah, life's been fucked up for me too, but this is what I did to overcome it.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking to support other people. Like, I'm not trying to be the sole source. I'm trying to improve our community. You know, I think our community is looking for answers, and a lot of the institutional tracks are very helpful. But I think sometimes the human component is lost, because a lot of times institutions are run by fear, right? We have to do all these things to protect everybody, right? Instead of just having the real conversation and sharing. And it's a little bit riskier, but I think ultimately we're at a point where people respect and appreciate honesty and transparency, right? And so I think there's room for it. And growing up here and having to find myself and develop an empowered identity, I think I have a unique perspective. I don't have all the answers, but I have a unique perspective for people from this community about what goes on, like what our history is as a community, as far as, you know, how institutions were set up and implications for what that did, and trying to find themselves.
Nice.
It's my thing, man.
That's your thing.
Love it.
Excellent.
Geek out on it.
Excellent.
So yeah, hit me up, davidpexa.com, GUAM Men's Academy. Find me on Facebook. Hit up James.
Hit me up. I can send the link.
Yeah.
Is there anything left you'd like to say to the guest?
Man, thanks for listening. If you're still listening, thanks for putting on the show, man.
We did about
I
an
think
hour
it's
and a half.
I
Not
think
bad.
it's a great thing having this available.
Well, thank you.
Just, you know, and I think you're perfect for it. You know, I've always known you as a social guy who's into technology and what's going on in the world and trying to keep up. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that I had this opportunity to talk about what I'm doing with my life here. And,
Nice.
You know, Suicide Prevention Month, you know, hopefully we can keep people, get them engaged and wanting to live life.
Yeah.
So,
Well, but my follow-up for you is, you know, I like where you're going. I like what we talked about today. And in the future, with some of these ongoing projects, if there is the ability to speak of the success and actually the trials that you went through, I think that would be another great follow-up for the guests as well,
hell yeah.
to see kind of, you know, this was the framework.
Yeah.
But during the next show, wherever that's going to be, it's like, hey, you guys saw the framework, but this is actually what happened.
Yeah.
I think I would be very, very curious on those results.
Yeah.
However those results may be.
Yeah.
If it worked, if it didn't, let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, there might be other people that are out there right now that are watching that want to tell that same story. Like Dave said, there's people in the community that do this type of thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think once that word starts to spread a little more like a ripple, and we can start really focusing on the community and a lot of this masculinity it's going a little left for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, let's not be miracle workers.
Right.
But let's start somewhere and let's try to do what we can do.
Yeah.
So thank you very much,
Sure.
Dave Pexa. I really
Yeah, man.
appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
And we'll see you back next time, folks. That was it for today. Peace out.